Okay, remember that they are changing my voice. This video is about why I am the best economist, and also about the California budget. So first of all, in order to be the best economist, one has to actually insist on what is right in a way that goes beyond everyone else who may be insisting on what is right. For example, one doctor could know a whole lot more about medicine than another doctor. But if he consistently abuses his patients, then he's a worse doctor than the other doctor. People could know a whole lot more about the details of the budget and things like this than I do, and still be a worse economist. When it comes to economics and economic models, if you don't insist on what is precisely right, you are a horrible economist. You're just a con man. You're just a dog. Let's look at the idea of the California budget. When they talk about surpluses and deficits, they're not talking about the California debt. I've seen various numbers in regards to the California debt. One number I've come across is that they owe $1.6 trillion. I've seen another number, right? Sometimes they're from the same year, sometimes they're 1 year apart, where they say it's more like 230 billion or 500 billion. They can't get their story straight. And I've been researching for a long time. I've been harassed by people whose job it is to make my life harder for telling the truth. And I can assure you that a lot of the stuff you see on the internet is posted there to confuse you on purpose, just like it was with the definition of the word economy. They do things in a way to confuse you so that if you try to debate someone, they say, he's an idiot. Okay, he doesn't know what he's doing. And what they're referring to partially is the idea of the tricks of the trade and the wordplay. That he doesn't know how to play the game to the point where he's playing the game and has what is considered to be the most up-to-date numbers or an argument that is consistent with the game. And you get these arrogant racist whites and Jews and LGBT people, these bitter token minorities. You get these horrible people, arrogant people, pompous and pretentious dogs, just arrogant, conceited, horrible people. And they just refuse to consider that their lives are laughable, that they are arrogant monsters. Remember, I grew up in a house that is now worth $5 million. I spent my childhood there, basically, from when I was like 2 or 3 years old, to like 8 or 9 years old. We didn't sell the house until I was about 9 years old. And we went back there and went swimming, what have you, while the house was being sold. It is now worth $5 million. It's in Saratoga, California. I can tell you for sure, as the son of 2 doctors, one a brain surgeon, that money isn't everything. The best years of my life weren't in a mansion. The best years of my life were doing martial arts better than anyone ever will, and anyone ever has, and everyone could possibly dream of. Life is not found in money, but the economy does affect the ability for people to live their lives. You know, it affects people's ability to live their lives, rather. And making it harder for me to use proper grammar, causing me to stumble on my words, changing my voice, the sound of my voice, what have you, is a bitch move. It is pathetic. It reflects the pathetic nature of the governing class, who treats the top martial artists that way. And it's the same philosophy that goes into the economy. Again, the economy is an idea or a non-specific idea that people are supposed to discuss. It is a philosophical idea. These dogs have a dog philosophy. They're pathetic monsters. They want you to serve them and grovel and live pitiful lives. And you're letting them walk all over you when you won't stand firm for universal pinpointed moral precision, which is greater than capitalism and communism combined, infinitely so. A universally, morally precise, pinpointed, and morally precise free market economy is greater than your capitalist, crony capitalist dog economy. Moral regulations, pinpointed and moral regulations. Not a system designed to elevate rich whites and Jews and LGBT people who, by the way, in case you didn't understand the first time, throw poor whites, Jews, and LGBT people and everyone else under the bus. Arrogant, worse than King George monsters, abominations, horrible people. So when you look at the idea of, hey, somebody doesn't understand that the budget deficit, okay, is not referring to the overall debt in California, for example. And therefore, someone says, and therefore he should shut up. No, you should shut up because you're evil. That person made an honest mistake. So what? They don't understand that. That doesn't change the fact that a universal, pinpointed, and morally precise economy is better than your crony capitalist dog economy or a communist dog economy. What the hell don't you get? You think you should abuse people? Look at the output of your economy. It affects social expression, social relations. It affects things and causes things like every 6.5 minutes for a woman or a child to be raped in this country. Every 6.5 minutes. 50,000 suicides in 1 year. That is a massacre. It's over 10 9/11s and no one seems to care. Some numbers of fentanyl I've heard out there were like 100,000, but I'm going to go with the 75,000 people dying of fentanyl every year. And there's other drugs killing people too. There's gang violence. There's homicides, domestic violence. It goes back to the economy. If they have a decent society with decent social relations and a decent economy, they probably don't want to beat their wives and their kids. But you people don't care, do you? What the budget deficit tells us is not as important in many ways as what the state debt, the debt that California has, tells us. Let's say they have $1.6 trillion in debt. Okay. Would it kill them to add $20 billion more to it? No. It wouldn't. It should cut the check for $20 billion all to housing. You can spend other money for mental health services, food program, what have you, but $20 billion all to housing for the homeless. It wouldn't kill you. Start it immediately. So you have the money's there. Now we look at these guys and say, hey, what's your problem? Is everyone in the state a fucking NIMBY? Say, not in my backyard like a bitch? Why should people want some monster who wants to purge the poor in their city rather than a poor person who's seeking help? Who's the least of the brethren? Matthew 25. What do your churches teach you? What do your parents teach you? Not in your backyard. You people ought to be very ashamed of yourselves. You want them on the streets desperate, attacking you instead, you dumb fucks? Vice taxes for rehabs. Luxury taxes, pet food taxes. Get these people the help they need. Let me guess, you don't want the rehabilitation facility in your backyard either. Because you're some kind of a bitch. It doesn't care about vulnerable individuals. You don't care if it's a disabled old woman. You don't care if it's a child in the street. You say not in your backyard. You don't take the time to think. You don't care what kind of homeless person they are. You don't care if they're schizophrenic or not schizophrenic. You don't care if it's the most homeless person on the planet. Not in your backyard because you're purging and some pieces of shit put you up to it. You're like, yeah, I'm on their team, guys. Fucking retarded. Everyone who said not in my backyard, it should be a law that they have to build in their backyard. Quit acting like a bitch. Now, people dropping dead every day in this state. Every day, homeless in the streets. During the winter, hypothermia. You imagine what it's like to freeze to death, you dog? But you don't care. And your cities are lame as it fucking lame. Like a Simpson fucking city. Not in Springfield. It's fucking retarded.